Hey everyone, this is WBD Diecast here with episode 2 of the Custom Diecast Garage. Just got a couple things I'm working on right now, and wanted to kind of show you a few of the different things that I do to make a few of these diecasts rather than just decaling. I've got a bunch of cars prepped here already. All these are actually for my collection because I've been doing so many orders I haven't even gotten a chance to do much stuff for myself, so I'm in between orders here because I'm waiting on I got an decal order coming in probably at some point next week, actually 2 separate packages because there were so many. So I'm kind of killing some time doing my own stuff until then, along with prepping some cars so that way they're ready for when those decals do get here. But for instance, I got this one here, which isn't quite done. I got some stuff still to finish up on it, but it's Kyle Busch's 2020 Appalachian State Xfinity Supra. For some reason, forgot the Goodyear logos on there, so I'm still going to get those put on. But I did this one up in a premium fashion since it's one for myself. So it's got the extra detailing on the inside of the car. It's got the extra painted on detailing under the bottom. I still need to give this thing banners because obviously it's not a Jeffrey Earnhardt car. And then a little bit extra clear coat on there because I put some of the different kind of clear coat I use, because I use 2 different kinds of clear coat. I use kind of like it's a Pledge Floor Gloss, which isn't necessarily like a model clear coat or anything, but it does really well and it shines really well. But then I also use some of this Tamiya X22. It's actually a acrylic paint that's clear, so it does a better job of kind of concealing a little bit of like the texture of the decals and making everything just a bit glossier. Only trouble is I don't like exactly how it finishes because it's a little bit thicker, so sometimes you see brush strokes. So I tend to, overall, I use three coats of the standard clear sealer, 1 coat of the Tamiya, and then a final coat of the standard clear sealer to go over top. So that's what I still have to do, which I'll do after I get the banners put on and everything. Another car I've been working on here is a US Cellular Elliott Sadler number 2018 number 1 Xfinity Camaro. I've actually made a few of these before, but I decided to make it with a metallic blue rather than just a standard blue that would normally be on this car. So I got a few more decals to put on. Got most of them on, and then put a layer of clear coat on there just to make things easier for when I try to do some of these smaller decals and everything. So not quite gonna deal with that one today. But the main ones I'm gonna be doing here are a few Austin Cindric cars. So I have this car prepped right here. Actually, this one isn't even going to be an Austin Cindric car. This one's actually, it's going to be another Penske car, but it's going to be this Brad Keselowski 2020 XPEL car, number 12, that ran pretty early on in the season. We just did never get to see it again after the pandemic. The 12 car didn't run again. But this is a really cool paint scheme. Shouldn't be extremely difficult decal-wise, but the front end here might be a little bit more difficult just with how these front ends are. So I got everything pre-painted on this car, so it is fully ready for decals. Got this other car here. This is going to be one of the Austin Cindric cars. Get a little bit of prep work done on it, but it is his 2020 Menards Richmond car. This is the same paint scheme he ran at Indianapolis, so not the playoff version, but also kind of the same paint scheme he won the championship in. So I'm excited to do this one. It's kind of ironic that the same scheme just went up for pre-order through Lionel for 2021, so I hope it does get produced, but it just happened to be right when I started to make one. So you can see I got the rims painted white here, which they're definitely not white in real life. They are that neon yellow, but in order for that to actually show up properly, I've painted them white. I'll put some sealer on it, and then I'll paint it with that neon yellow to make it more accurate to real life. But the one I don't have together here is going to be this PPG Austin Cinder car from last year. But I still need to prep some of the interior with some of the platinum, or not platinum, but premium features to it. So I'll kind of show you here how I actually paint some of those. The camera adjusted here. Okay, so we'll leave it about like this. So I got all the parts here separated on these to make it a little bit easier to paint. See if I can show you here, get it to focus. You can kind of unhook the roll cage on the side, because I'll do some stuff around the seat and everything, and I'll show you what all I actually paint here. What I use to actually paint with are these paint markers right here. So for the most part, I use a lot of black, a lot of white, a little bit of red, and a lot of silver, and those all come in the tester's markers. These are the enamel paint markers, so they don't wash off with water, and I find that they dry really like glossy. Some other ones that work really well are the Sharpie paint markers, which I do have pretty much all the colors in of as well. Here's one of those, but I find that I just really like these tester's markers. So I got all 4 of those that I'm going to be using here for different parts of the interior of the car. And then also there is one little spot I do in, it kind of covers the label, but it's kind of this rust color. Let's see if we can get it focused here. This rust color, and it'll go right on the bottom of the car here, kind of towards the end of the rear end housing and everything. So not too much of that, but let's get going on this. Usually have a paper plate right here that I'll kind of dab the markers on to get them working, get some paint coming out of them. You don't want to overload it too much, but you want to get a little bit of paint coming out there. So otherwise, if you overload it too much, this stuff will just start running over the edges. And for these, let's adjust it here. This a little bit more actually. I'm going to paint. Try and do this at a little bit different angle than I normally do. So the exhaust pipes here, I'll paint those black. See, the whole color scheme here with how I paint the underside is very similar to how Doug Mount, who's another custom maker, who posts some stuff here on YouTube, has some great information on how he does stuff, and it's been very, very helpful what he shared. Alright, so I got the black up there. I did get a little bit there, but I can scrape that off afterwards here, so I'm not too worried about it right now. Like I said, doing this at different angles making it a bit more challenging, but I'll paint these. And then there's these 2 little notches here right at the top, and I'll just paint the notches. Yeah, I got a couple other spots there I'll have to touch up. But that's it for the underside of the car, so put that down for now. And then another thing I do here is the windows. Paint the edges of the windows. It's actually very similar to what some of the old platinum style cars, when they used to make the hood open cars like this, where how you can see like the black lining around the windows. A lot of 124s have them as well, but it's just a little bit extra detail, makes things look a little bit better. So once again, don't want to dab my marker here, but don't want to get too much paint on there. I just kind of write it right along the edge. You can see it there, nothing too over the top or anything. Say the trickiest one here is getting the one up by where it mounts onto the car. So that's about the best spot to hold on to it. Get a little bit extra there. I'll have to dab that off. Okay. Scrape that off later. Had a little bit on my finger there and didn't realize it, but that can be cleaned off. Get that. Over the top. On the back side there, so we will put that down and let that dry. We'll do it to the next one here. This is the back window. I really like to cover this whole shark fin that's on here, so I do get a little bit more than normal on my marker. Make sure I hit that so it fully covers, and then go right over the top of it too. Alright, and do the same thing to the other side over here. I think I'm going to too when I get those decals in. I think I'll open them all up for you guys. Like I said, I got quite a bit coming in. It's actually the largest decal order I've ever done. By the way, I get my decals from Pato's place, which is based out of Australia. The big thing is it's hard to get decals that are printed in white, so you can have like the background color removed and everything, which is why I prefer to order them rather than printing them at home. So I order them from there. They come from Australia, and yeah, been super happy with how they are. But we'll switch next here to silver. Grab this again. Actually, we'll start with the interior here. So I do a few different things on the interior. I do the seat, the edges of the seat, I should say. Okay. And then also the little shifter handle here. If you touch anywhere, don't worry. You can always scrape it off later, or worst case scenario, the insides of the cars make it very hard to see some of it anyway. So if you're really worried about it when you're doing it, then it's not a big deal. All right, and then I do the pedals right down there too, because those are pretty easy to do. I don't think you can really see them when you look in the car, but I like to do them because I know it's there. And then there's kind of two boxes here. There's a tall kind of box behind the seat, and then there's a red one, or a small one down there that I paint red. So we'll paint this silver right up here. And we'll put that down for now. And we'll grab the next thing, which is the dash. There's a couple spots on the dash there that I like to paint silver. And you really don't want to hit this too heavy with paint because it'll just glob up and go everywhere on this. So looks like I got that there. I won't do it now, but once this dries a little bit, these two bigger portions right here, I'll actually hit halfway with red, which, like I said, you can kind of see in here, but I gotta wait for this to dry or else it won't turn out quite right. So you won't see that, unfortunately. But we'll go back to the bottom of the car here. Move my light a little bit. And I get this right here in the middle. You're not gonna get this perfect, but or if you touch up the black or hit the black or anything like that, don't worry, you can come back and touch it up later. Okay. I'll try to get down in here the best I can, but this is a little bit more difficult. You could use something more like a brush for this, but I find it just takes too much time and it's a lot of cleaning up. That's definitely not my best work doing it at this angle, but it works for now. And this one's going to be for me anyway, so if it's not perfect, then it is what it is. There's a little circle here and kind of a thing next to it that I'll paint silver as well. Okay. And then also there's a little bar right here. And then I like to hit, there's a little bump that sticks up on the other side. I like to hit that too, just to give it a little bit more shininess there. Okay, and now we'll switch over to white, which there's really not much white. Going to go right across the drivetrain here. Yeah, definitely not used to doing it at this angle, but you get the idea here of how I usually do it. Okay, so that's white there. And then the last paint marker I use is the red one, which, like I said, we won't be able to do fully right now. Normally I'd wait a little bit longer so I can do it over top the dash. I just won't do that right now, and I'll just show you what else I do. So if you take the inner part of the car here, like I said, there's this little box down here on the right hand side, and I'll actually just hit that with red. Sometimes this takes 2 coats, just because the red doesn't like to cover on the black, but it's all kind of down to preference. The outer edge of it. There we go. And we'll just leave that to dry. And then, like I said, the last of it here is the paint, which, to apply this, I just use a toothpick. Get one out here. All I did was just simply dip it just ever so slightly. See if you can get it to focus here. There we go, ever so slightly. So if I flip this back over, I'm just gonna pretty much just dab it right in this area. It's kind of hard to see, but I promise it does help. A little bit of an accent color there. All right, so all that stuff just needs to dry now. So I think what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna start on this Brad Keselowski car. I don't think we'll get very much done with it tonight, but I want to get the front end on this car because it's probably the most difficult part by far. I got my water and everything here. Get it moved over. My decal sheet. I'll move a little bit of this stuff here. Car down. Okay. Now I'm not sure how I want to cut out this front end, but I'm just going to cut it out in full. I might have to kind of slit it in a few spots to help it curve around the front end here, or I might just hit it pretty good with some of the microsole to help it mold the car. Okay. All right, so we got the piece there. Well, I think we should just try it. Worst case scenario, I got a few different sets of decals for this one. Actually, don't know where my tweezers are at the moment, so we'll just dip it in this way. Let it sit there for a second, and get it right back out. I'll go ahead and cut out the roof number and put that on too, since it's probably one of the easier things to do. Now you want to cut preferably as close as you can. The nice part with these decals is I can cut over the decal and it doesn't run. With home printed decals, especially with printing on an inkjet printer, you definitely won't be able to do that because it'll start bleeding on the edges. So just depending on how you're doing it, just be careful. Dip that. So might as well get that out of the way. Okay. So I'm trying to adjust my light here. Slide that right on the front. I want to kind of pull it across. It actually forms a little bit better than I thought it would. You see, placement wise, I need to get it further over this way. I'm going to dry that. And this is going to take a little bit of work to get just right. It is a little wide for the front end, so it's going to have to probably wrap around the edges a little bit. This is what I can tell here. You can kind of see I painted the actual I painted the splitter up a little bit higher than I normally would, just to make sure it's like a clean cut at the bottom once I do get this on. I might, it's a little high, I might bring it down a little bit. I do like how that's looking so far. So I'm going to take my brush and my microsole. I'll put a little bit on there. too crazy with it quite yet, but gosh, I just keep pushing it away. Like I said in the first video, you just really have to be careful with this stuff because it will make the decal very, very soft, especially the more of this you put on, which is good because it'll conform way better than if you were just trying to get it to do it on its own. But at the same time, you can end up ripping your decal or making it wrinkle up really bad if you put too much on it. Okay. So we're getting better. I really need that right side to come down just a little bit. That looks good so far. Get a little bit more. Now on some of these cars, like on the edge of the front end, when you're trying to wrap it, it'll have a tendency to kind of bend down to get to just kind of work it to where it's not doing that anymore. I find it easier, especially when you're dealing with doing like headlights all at once in the same thing. If you get the bottom portion first, you can sometimes cut a little slit in where the lights are to get it to fold over a little bit and not be quite as wrinkled, because if you look from above, you can kind of see how it's sticking off there right now. Which I can tell that decal's starting to feel pretty sticky. I'm gonna hit this edge over here again. Actually going to dry that a little bit because I think I got a little too much on there. Okay. You'll see the more I work it, the more it kind of forms onto that lip there. Like I said, without the solution, it would never, ever get anywhere close to that. These guys and I haven't had a ton of people watch this yet, but if there's something you guys really want to see, like you just don't know how I do it or anything, please let me know. Because I know there's a lot to doing these cars, and sometimes you think you're doing it the right way, And until you see kind of a different idea or something like that, you really don't know. And heck, even if you got any suggestions for me. Okay. All right, so I pretty much got that side all good. Get this side down a little bit. So yeah, I got a little bit too much on this side over here. So I have to kind of be careful. So what I'm going to do is just going to leave that for a minute once I pull this out. I'll leave this on this side to kind of dry. Although I'd say I think we've done pretty good so far. It's looking pretty good. Got a little bit of a wrinkle here to fix on the edge, but other than that, not too bad at all. So I think we'll see if I can touch that up here. We'll let that dry, and I'm gonna put this roof decal on, and then I think that'll be about it for the video here. That roof decal fits just about perfectly on the car. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll probably give you an update on this car, maybe even show you a bit of making it in another video here, but we'll see. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.